Hello and welcome to Archives and Records Simplified. So a quick word about these videos. These videos are aimed at people looking for basic knowledge about archives and records, and this could honestly apply to anyone. You may be a student that's looking to undertake the Archivist and Records Management course. You may be a librarian that's been asked to work with some archives. You might be a digitisation manager who wants to know more about the collections and the material that you're digitising, or you may just have a general interest in archives and records. This is a topic which I think will intersect with many industries, and the idea of these videos is to be as open and as usable for as many people as possible. The vast majority of videos in this channel will be less than 15 minutes, but some of them will get more complex in certain parts. Sources and further reading will always be posted at the end of the video. And also, I would just like to add, if you have any questions, feel free to put it in the comments below. Or if you have any requests, if there's any topics you would like me to make another short video about, please also feel more than free to mention them. I'd be delighted to learn. A quick word about me. I'm an archivist based in London. You can look at my LinkedIn profile here. And lastly, I apologise for my thick accent. I realise if you're not Scottish, you might be struggling a little bit to understand me. Therefore, there'll be a full transcript posted in the description at the end of each video. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the channel and you find this of use. Also, if you find these videos useful, I would be really grateful if you could like and subscribe and possibly hit the bell button as well. Thanks. Okay, so advice for newly qualified or soon to qualify archivists. Okay, so a quick overview and some disclaimers. So this video is primarily aimed at people close to finishing a formal qualification or have very recently qualified. But I would say that some of the advice is generally very universal. I also have to say that this is based on my own experience and background, and others may have different or better advice. Some of this may also vary depending on what sort of role or job you're looking for. For example, if you wanted to work, say, very specifically in medical archives, it may help to undertake a specific course relating to that. And also, COVID-19 is still very much a concern, and some of my advice right now might not be as potent as it would be at any other time, especially in regards to volunteering. And lastly, I have to actually admit that I'm probably a bit guilty of not doing some of the things in this list myself. In fact, to be honest, there's a few things here that I personally feel that I had done more of when I was in that position. Okay, so from a personal experience, I personally feel one of the biggest things that holds a lot of early professionals back is really a lack of self-confidence. If you've just finished a qualification or you're very close to it, then you or someone else, if you've done a graduate traineeship, for example, has paid for a very costly vocational, recognised, hopefully accredited qualification. You know, very few people go on to do a master's. The number of students who've generally gained undergraduate degrees has increased in recent years, but a very small proportion of people go on to get a diploma or a master's. So you're in a very small and exclusive group, and you should really be proud of that. And don't underestimate your achievements, because when you look back at it, when you're currently working in it, or you're in the process of getting a qualification, you maybe don't realise how much you've done. But when you're looking back in the long term, it's actually a lot more impressive than you realise. So just generally be a bit more confident about yourself. And also, while I understand that the frustration of struggling to get experience because you currently don't have experience, which is a common problem for almost anyone that's newly qualified in anything, I would say one big advantage that new professionals have is that their knowledge is often modern and up to date. And I really can't emphasize how much of an advantage that is. Often as an archivist or an information professional, you're constantly looking at courses, at books, at seminars you can do to keep your knowledge up to date. And in certain areas, especially such as digital preservation, or even right now in regards to representation and cataloguing archives in a more ethical and inclusive way, having that up-to-date knowledge is a real advantage. There'll be some archivists who'll graduate, they'll maybe work in a very small environment or a very closed workplace, and they'll have very few opportunities to undertake additional training. One of your big advantages is that your knowledge is really fresh and up to date, and that's a really, really big advantage. And see that as an asset, and maybe something that can help make up for the lack of experience you might currently have. And the other thing I would say is also take risks and try things. So, this might include a personal self-archiving project. So I know one of my friends who just round about before he finished his qualification, he did a personal digital he did a personal digitization project where he digitized some family materials within his own family just to get a little bit more of experience and just to get a feel for what he might be doing in a job. And he mentioned it in an interview and it helped him get a job. Another thing might be creating a set of podcasts or even blogging, just blog about your experiences, see where it goes, and don't be afraid to try new things and learn from the mistakes. I actually tried something that sort of backfired on me when I was a student. I used to record my lectures. So, every time I went to a lecture, we would record them. And I remember thinking I could turn them into a series of podcasts, which I could make available via Dropbox. And in the end, I was quite rightly actually told not to put them up because there was obviously copyright issues. There was issues about people not feeling comfortable about having their content made publicly available. And although at the time it maybe felt like a bad experience, long term it was a really useful experience. And although that particular project didn't work out, I feel that I learned a lot from it, and it's made me a better archivist in the long term. So as I say, be prepared to take risks and try new things. Obviously within reason. If you do think you're doing anything that might be illegal, don't. As I say, within reason, take calculated risks might be a better piece of advice here. Okay, so the other thing I would say is really consider volunteering. If you want to be involved with Archives and Records Simplified, then please let me know. This is quite a new channel, but if you have an idea for a video and you want to take the plunge and record one and have it uploaded here, I'd be more than happy. Or even if you want to give some of my videos some much needed editing, which I'm sure I probably could do with, then yeah, please let me know. As I said, the idea of this resource particularly is to be as open and collaborative as possible. Okay, so another bit of advice I would give, and again, this is very specific to people currently undertaking a course at the moment, is to try really utilize your thesis or your coursework, especially if you're undertaking a dissertation. If you're currently doing a dissertation, then try see it as a develop skills and knowledge. I know that for many of you that might even be writing a dissertation as this video is being published, you're probably very nervous and anxious about it, but it's actually as much an opportunity as a burden. Often a dissertation is an opportunity to pursue something or an idea or an activity that you probably won't get at any other point in your career. And it might also be an opportunity to actually learn a skill. So for example, in my course, I'm fairly sure there was a girl in the masters that I did that did her dissertation on copyright. And she, I believe from what I understand, is she used that experience to get a job working in that area later on. So, it could be anything at all. It might be that you do something to do with ISA G, which is a cataloguing standard essential to most roles. Any sort of dissertation relating to cataloguing that gives you a better understanding of the cataloguing process may really help you get a job post-qualification. So that's some general advice. And I'm speaking specifically about a dissertation here, but coursework generally. And also, as you're doing your coursework, maybe try think about how that coursework might relate to the sort of practical setting, and that might also help you perform. First of all, it might also help you perform better. But when you're also filling out applications and very hopefully performing some of these roles, you'll feel more comfortable doing it, and you'll maybe feel more confident in yourself. Okay, for the love of God, create a LinkedIn profile. Now, I actually need to be totally honest and say that this is a piece of advice that I actually didn't heed until much later on in my career, and I feel that that was a mistake. Make sure that you keep it up to date and also feel confident networking with others. The worst case scenario is that someone doesn't accept your invitation to link, and the most common reason is probably because their account's not active. And personally, I usually put my LinkedIn profile at the start of the video so you can look who I am and learn more about my background. If you send me an invitation, I'll almost certainly accept within reason. If you're a neo-Nazi or a stalker, then I might be slightly less inclined to do that. But no, in all seriousness, feel more than free to connect with me personally. Okay, so sometimes I notice that some professionals feel put off for applying for roles, maybe because of lack of confidence or because they feel a little bit intimidated. And this slide probably relates quite heavily to a lot of what I mentioned earlier in this video. In all honesty, you'll probably fail in more applications than you succeed. But here's the thing, you only need to succeed once. So if you apply for 10 jobs and you don't get any of them, but then you get the 11th, well, then that's a success, okay? The other 10 doesn't matter. And also I'd say see it as a long-term process and see it as a trial and error. If your first 4 or 5 applications don't work, well, maybe you can rule out some things that didn't work before and try make it that each application is a little bit stronger than the last one. And also request feedback when you can. And that doesn't just include interviews, that can also include the very application process. I've actually had a number of, I'll be honest and say that I've had more failed application than successful ones. And I've been surprised at how many have always got back to me and given me really useful advice. And you may also find that doing an application helps you see what areas you're lacking in. Some applications are quite good in the sense that they give you maybe 10 areas and they ask you to provide advice or experience, not advice, they ask you to provide experience or evidence in each of these 10 areas. And it might be one of the areas is cataloging, another area is working with others. If you're going through that, see what's hardest, see what you're least confident in, and it might actually give you an idea of where you could be a bit stronger. And lastly, don't underestimate the experience you've maybe gained in other areas or other professions. My very first job, I worked at McDonald's as a customer care assistant, which is very far removed from what an archivist does, but it has helped me in applications where maybe I've had to deal with readers or library users. In fact, I used that experience in my application for Oxford University a few years ago. So honestly, don't downplay or don't feel ashamed of any other job you've done. You honestly have no idea. Well, you probably do have an idea, but you often find that certain skills are highly transferable. And the archivist profession is like any other in the sense that there'll be things you do that are relatable to many other jobs. Okay, so first of all, I just want to apologise. I think this video will break my rule of going over 15 minutes, but I hope it's worth it. I suspect a lot of people might be interested in this particular topic. And very lastly, this is a resource made available by the Society of American Archivists, and it gives some useful advice on resumes for archivists and records managers. So very, very lastly, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you have any questions or any responses, please feel more than free to post below. Okay, and thanks again, and I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you find these videos useful, I would be very grateful if you could like and subscribe and possibly hit the bell button as well. I'm hoping to do a lot more of these videos in the coming months and year, and liking, subscribing and hitting the bell button will make it more likely that you'll see updates in your feed.